you guys hit my radar when I found out about the Hornitos Blacklist, Take Your Shot challenge happening. And then when I heard about your film, I went, I have to speak to these guys. They get it. When you gave an answer on that call to other members of the media and you mentioned the name Eddie Guerrero, I went, these are my guys. These are my guys. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, and he's actually hanging over our door frame at the moment. So
wow, the LWO era.
yeah, on wood, real classy.
Have any members of the Guerrero family heard about this project or communicated in any form?
Not yet. I tried to slide into Vicky's DMs, like I guess about a month ago, but no response yet. So, I mean, it's hidden in there. You know, he's the inspiration, and the name, it's hidden in the name, Giannis, and all that other kind of stuff. But obviously, Eddie never, in actuality, left wrestling to join a punk band. But you know, I guess if he had, it would have been this adventure. You know.
If a Guerrero joined a punk band, I'm thinking it would have been gory.
Right? The Mountain Goats did a whole album about them, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Exactly. They did. And it's so cool to see great people get rewarded and recognized so that something can be critically acclaimed and commercially successful. And Hornitos and the Blacklist, not the only people who said, hey, these guys are cool. I've heard you were moving ahead in the Sundance consideration. I heard the NPR interview that you did through KTEP. What was it that gave you guys the awareness to know to pursue these great opportunities rather than just going, we wrote a film, let's see where it goes?
Yeah, he kind of, he's the one that's been kind of heading up that charge. It's the Blacklist to begin with. It just kind of been yeah, he would know a little more about this than I would.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, I was wrapping up grad school, so I was super broke, right? And I was just trying to with the amount of money that I happen to have in my bank account, you know, there's contests can be fairly expensive, and so I figured if you're gonna enter, you might as well go for the prestige ones and see if you can get eyes on it. And that's why we chose to get hosted on the Blacklist, and we entered the Nichols, and yeah, and actually Sundance was interesting because I had missed the deadline on Sundance, but they heard about it and invited us into the competition, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, we were being hosted on the Blacklist, you know, on the site. And one of the cool things they have is they have these like rotating opportunities for different competitions and fellowships. Like right now, I know there's one for like Indigenous people and Muslim creators, you know. And so there just happened to be the Shoot Your Shot competition. I was just on the site, clicked on it, saw it was available, and figured, if nothing else, a proof of concept would be exciting to make. You know, so if we could slam the luchadors and the music into 15 minutes, we might actually have something. So that's what we're trying to do right now, you know?
Yeah. Now, the film, while it is about wrestling, it's not really about wrestling. Kind of like the movie Chef. Yes, it's about a food truck, but it's not really about a food truck. You could see the metaphors about the film industry and pursuing your own creative projects. So that said, the first real good wrestling movie I remember was Beyond the Mat. And we waited a long way between Beyond the Mat and The Wrestler.
Yeah.
And now we have Heels on Stars. Have you guys seen Heels?
Yeah, watched the entire first season.
And
you know,
seeing that made and then seeing this film gives me hope of, wait, so there's intellectually oriented wrestling content in the works. Was there any initial feedback of, oh, this is great, but if you can get rid of the wrestling stuff, did that ever happen?
I'll go real quick, if you don't mind. After we completed it, and I had it on the Blacklist, and we got an initial really great response, and then I sent it out to a production company, and that a friend of mine happens to run. And he mostly actually does like B horror films, but I figured why not, you know, eyeballs on it. and he had one of his readers on it, and the reader got back to me after, I guess, about 10 days and said, oh, I'm busy, but I made it through the first half of it. And I think it could, and this is a genuine response, it was like, I think it could be a little less heavy and a lot more fun, more Nacho Libre and less The Wrestler. And like a part of me died inside, like really, really died inside, because I'm kind of super impressed you brought it up, because Beyond the Mat, I remember seeing it. I remember exactly where I was, and it just kind of blew my mind. And Beyond the Mat was a huge inspiration, and obviously Beyond the Mat was an inspiration for Aronofsky's The Wrestler.
Yes.
And I've always been, I didn't grow up in wrestling culture, because my father was an amateur wrestler, so he always had this tremendous hatred of professional wrestling and the like performance component of it. But when I was in high school, I think I saw an old VHS bootleg. I know I saw a VHS bootleg. An old VHS bootleg ECW match, and it was exactly the match that begins Beyond the Mat. It was Jerry Lynn versus Rob Van Dam, and it kind of blew my mind. And I was always way more fascinated, way more intrigued by the people who created the personas, and particularly like at that ECW level where they weren't on major networks. These were guys who were literally killing themselves.
They were on TNN, right?
Yeah, even before
TNN,
that.
Yeah. And even before that, like 3 a.m. deep UHF cable.
And like in a ballroom in Philadelphia. And then, and then you look, and that's where guys like Eddie came from, and Jericho, and all those other kind of, they cut their teeth somewhere else, whether it's Japan or Mexico or ECW. And then, they eventually, hopefully, become these kind of merchandised properties, in the hands of Vince McMahon or whatever. But anyways, I was always more fascinated by that kind of stuff, like how these people go about crafting an existence, a life based on this, because it's not exactly a prestige art form, but the dedication level to it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Like physically, mentally, spiritually. And I just, again, so that was just something that was always impressive to me about that, more so than the kayfabe narratives, at least for me.
100%. When somebody says, hey, did you see that hour-long draw wrestling match? I go, I can't watch more than a 6-minute match, but I could listen to a wrestler talk about wrestling for an hour of the craft and figuring out who the person is behind the character. Just like stand-up comedy, it's tough for me to listen to a whole hour of it, but I can listen to comedians talk about comedy. That's the vibe I got from you guys and hearing some of the other interviews you've done.
Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. But yeah, and going back to the ECW and all that stuff, for me, I know I took a lot of I wouldn't say not necessarily inspiration, that's a dumb word, but from You Can't Kill David Arquette.
Oh, great documentary. I got to speak to him on the junket for that. Yes.
Yeah, so I like just the hell that guy went through after he won the WCW title, and just trying to get his way back into the good graces of wrestling fans. I like, that was something that I had no idea. That showed me a whole different side of the wrestling world that I knew, of like the hate, the vitriol of fans, and just like that nastiness that people can show you if you try something new, and I think that's something that we kind of touched on with our script of just like, hey dude, stick to wrestling, or stick to your novelty songs, so I think that's something that I really enjoyed learning a lot more about what I knew as a kid. I used to call into wrestling shows on the AM radio.
Me too.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And just really let them know what I thought about Disco Inferno. And how as a kid, I thought he was hugely underrated, and he should have all his gimmicks. I ate him up when he changed his name to Disco with a Q because of Cisco. I was like, oh man, this guy's so smart, you know. But yeah,
and Disco Inferno weirdly has reinvented himself and to be more relevant than ever nowadays with his weird theories and kind of persona where you don't know where the gimmick ends these days with podcasting.
Oh, he's back?
Oh, yeah. If you look on YouTube and you just type in Disco Inferno, prepare for a wormhole of interesting theories about everything in life. But hey, back to you guys. I really also appreciate what you're doing within the script and the overall film concept for El Paso, Texas. And the average person would go border town, and that's kind of where it ends. But as a punk rock person, I love the band At the Drive-In and Sparta. And where did they come from? They came from El Paso. So I got to interview Jim Ward probably a year ago from the band Sparta and At the Drive-In.
Good buddy of mine. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Jim donated. Oh, Jim lent a song to the script, and heavyweight country rock group, sleeper cars all over the script. Jim's a good guy, man. He's a solid dude.
Well, I think it's cool to see people changing the persona of a city like that, in that it's not just a border town, it's kind of a cultural hub if you're into music and wrestling, great food, and craft spirits.
Yeah, that was one of my pet peeves, and that was one of the reasons that we kind of did, we could have said it anywhere, but that was one of my reasons for wanting to do this, was because I hate the way El Paso is represented on film. Because like you said, border town, and then even more recently in the news, kids in cages. I want to be proud of where I'm from, and I want other people to see that there's more to it than just what is what is it called?
Sepia toned.
Sepia toned, but Narcos.
Oh, Sicario.
Sicario, yeah. There's more else than Sicario and the Forever Purge. I want other people to see what I see. And
it really is bizarre because you get the representations that are from Kill Bill, where there's a little tumbleweed and it's dusty and you're there's okay. And then when they actually do show that it is somewhat of but it is a major city with almost 1 million people, and Juarez is literally connected to our downtown, with another couple million. So it's this huge urban, as you said, center. But even when it is represented, you get the Sicario representation where Del Toro literally says the line, "That's what is." They call her the Beast, and I have never ever heard anyone refer to Juarez as the Beast. But that's what happens when you get other people writing narratives about your community.
That's what happens when you see the Adam Sandler movie, The Ridiculous Six.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that masterpiece. So yeah, it was Sicario in particular. We mentioned, but that film really bothered me. Really, really bothered me, because it was a well-respected film and people, bought into it, and it was just absurd. It's so cartoonishly absurd, and I don't want to knock the writer or anything like that or anyone involved in making an action movie, but yeah, it for lack of a better term, it was pretty insulting,
Yeah. And I love action movies. I love action movies, but I was like, no, you got it wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
So,
wow. So yeah, that's it. A film that's not about cartels or kids in cages or the drug war or, that kind of stuff.
Well, two questions. One's going to be easier than the other. And then you guys are free to get along with your day. And the first one is, where is the film at in terms of the production process or the overall shopping of it? Or are you allowed to even say, because you're under a deadline.com embargo?
No, I mean, where it's at is right now we're in pre-production for the proof of concept short, right? Thanks to Juanitos and Blacklists. we're in the process of casting, which has been a little rough because it's like right around Christmas break.
Yeah.
You know, and so like a lot of things are shut down. So we're doing our best to get together like a quality cast and hopefully attach people that can roll over into the feature. But really, in all honesty, right now everything is in on this proof of concept short. As far as the feature goes, there's been some eyes on it, and there was discussion with one person in particular who was interested in purchasing the rights to it so long as he could direct it himself. But we had a conversation with the director, and his vision
was more Nacho Libre.
Was more Nacho Libre.
Got it.
And so it was just, you know, that's where we're at with that. But again, hopefully our proof of concept shows that the idea works without it being comical. I mean, there is humor in it. Like I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, and I always kind of like that kind of dark humor. You know, that kind of you know, something can be violent and funny and sad and gross and all that at the same time, right? If it's well executed, and that's kind of what we're aiming for, as opposed to. And I think also too, as a result of Nacho Libre, luchador culture
has been mocked.
Yeah, it's mockable in like a lot of like American, you know, circles or whatever. But it does have a really cool history, and you know, there's an artistry to it that I actually genuinely appreciate a lot more than I do the 6'6" Vince McMahon tanned male models, you know, with their fake punches and such. I'd rather watch a luchador match as opposed to, you know, a Hogan match any day of the week.
I hear you. Well, my last question, and thinking about it, maybe it's not the easiest one, is who is the greatest heel in wrestling today?
Today, I would Roman Reigns.
Yeah, the vitriol he generates.
It's not MJF, according to both of you.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I know he's past his prime, and we were mocking him actually privately the other day. But I will never ever get over Chris Jericho. I think he's amazing. I think like even this AEW manifestation with a bit of the bubbly, you know, and I think the fact that he's embraced that he's past his prime, but it's still, you know, a draw, I think is really, really great. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm always a real big fan. As I think in particular now that even WWE culture has wisened up a little bit, and they don't necessarily like having people forced upon them. You know what I mean? And just to watch, as you said, like Roman Reigns or some of these cartoon characters try to get forced down their throats, and they end up becoming inadvertent heels, you know, just because the fans don't want them anymore. You know, I actually do appreciate the fact that CM Punk's and Daniel Bryan's can actually rise up now and you know, kind of stake a claim. In all honesty, like really, really take a place where guys like Eddie Guerrero would, you know, carve that landscape for him. You know, I like that YouTube match where Eddie Guerrero upset Brock Lesnar and won the title is still one of the greatest pops in WWE history, because even though the crowd knew that it was going to get taken away from him in a matter of days, if not weeks, you know, just the fact that Vince, quote, gave him that, or, you know, decided he deserved it, is kind of all you need to know about, you know, what that guy's journey was like and how much the fans appreciated it. So yeah, it's just, again, building a character, you know, in a film like that, someone who's really good at something, truly gifted at something, but discovers that maybe they want something more in life, you know, and what the response to that person is. Sorry, I know this is long-winded. I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Like, we see that with bands all the time, and that's why I think it's kind of interesting to like, you know, have you know, a Ruben or a Pavo Bravo go through that journey, because there are some loyal fans, and then the band or whatever adapts or changes or grows, and some of their bass just turns on them viciously, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
play the old stuff.
Yeah, play the old
Play
stuff.
the old stuff, yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's one of those things where there probably is no safe space if you're genuinely trying to be vulnerable and creative as a person, as an artist. I know that sounds terrible to say as we're promoting a film, but but you know, there's a certain point where your own success and perhaps your own genius become prisons, and like that's just something that intrigued us about this guy, you know, about this character. Is what is he willing to do to get out of this own imposed prison, especially because he's a legacy wrestler, you know, like Eddie is a Guerrero. Poor Ruben Yanis is from the long line of legacy wrestlers, you know.
Paltrocast.